So I'm really excited to hear about 6.5. I think we were doing specifically, we were talking about connection management today. So very relevant things that you have on the roadmap. And, the customers, which is our us, we're looking forward to what you guys have got going. So, so let me introduce myself. I'm the head of engineering for FIS. FIS is a Fortune 500 company working across banking, merchant payment solutions, which is Worldpay, and then also capital markets. And and you'll hear from my member of my team. So I've got quite uh, uh, quite an experience in software development. I've worked across AI and ML, data engineering, core multi-thread data applications. So, once I was doing a review of a client's big data platform, I was fortunate enough to work with Chai and team, and I really saw the power of CDAP there. So I'll go more into that. You'll hear from Shamim, my team, who's the data engineering lead, and Eleni. Guys, do you want to introduce yourself now, or should we skip? Okay, Shamim, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Shamim Ghafoor. As you can see, I've got a lot of experience in software development, primarily around using web frameworks, JVM languages like Spring Framework and all that jazz. Quite recently joined the data engineering space, I would say relatively recently, so 4 years plus of experience. And I've been with Worldpay for around 2.5 years.
Eleni, do you want to?
I had to unmute myself. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. From me, I am Eleni, and I am a platform engineer here at FIS. I've been with the company for around 2 years, and I've mainly been supporting data engineering projects here, which is how I came to join the CDAP team as well. Back to you, Usman.
Thank you. So, as I said, FIS Fortune 500 has many subsidiaries working across banking, merchants, solution, and capital markets. We have 20,000 plus clients. We process 79 billion plus transaction globally. And we may move about $10 trillion annually across the globe. So we're impacting and trying to make a positive impact on how people sort of bank and how people move money across. So that's us. Cool. So our agenda for the today is that I want to set a little bit of context of what we were trying to do at FIS, and why we chose CDAP, and our journey, how we went about it, and then the team is going to talk more about specific aspects within CDAP and the lessons learned, and we'll leave some time for some questions. Right, so I joined FIS Worldpay back in November. We had a whole hodgepodge of data integration sort of tools, and to just set the context, we're building one of the largest data lakes in the world, right? So we're talking orders of petabytes and old transformed data. This is not IoT data. This is records, transactions. We're building one of the biggest data lakes, and what we had was really desperate components. So FIS had a history of acquiring companies over a period of years. Every year, almost every 1 or 2 years, it acquired companies. So what that did was we had very sort of desperate components, desperate strategies around data, desperate strategies about data integration. So, and then we had a very complex set of users. There were teams that were very technical with data engineering capabilities. Then there were teams that actually had no capability there. And then we kind of also have this requirements because we're a fintech that how long can data stay in a bucket without encryption, who can look at the data, and who can integrate it, and what can you see. So we have quite strict requirements for it, and we have to fulfill those requirements very tightly. So just to add another bit to this story is that when one of the reasons why I kind of chose CDAP was that I've again with Chai and team developing it, I really saw that you could make something CDAP your own. So we had the likes of Data Stage, what they had, IBM's Data Stage. We reviewed AWS Glue, many different tools, and there was almost something there that one we had to rely on somebody else's roadmap. We couldn't make something our own, and CDAP had this plugin model where we could actually inject certain encryption capabilities, develop our own plugins, right? And that modular nature, plug and play nature of CDAP would made it really attractive for us. So that's kind of the reasons why we chose CDAP over many different tools that we evaluated, even from players coming from a startup sort of world, new teams that are developing tools out there. So with that, I'll hand you over to Shamim, and they'll talk more about CDAP.
Thank you, Usman. So, as everybody knows here in this audience, data integration is not that hard, right? There are multiple tools available already in the market. Well, if you're writing your own code, obviously it's going to be hard. But as a data engineer, that's probably first, or software engineers, that's probably going to be your first instinct to do it yourself, right? So there are a few challenges in that. Obviously, there's multiple elements to consider, metrics, observability, monitoring, all those aspects. So if you can go on to the next slide, Eleni. Usman already talked about the challenges and why that FIS face and why we chose CDAP. Along with the things that Usman already mentioned, so we already have a lot of data sources. As you can imagine, we have 20,000 clients, and some of them are small and medium banks as well. So we have to integrate with a multitude of services, source systems, if you will. So that could vary from source files, text files, to real-time streaming systems like Kafka or API-based systems. And in addition to that, there are a lot of teams doing data analytics and data engineering within FIS. Even within our own group, there are more than a dozen teams. In fact, in the order of dozens, I would say. And in, one of the things that caught my eye when Chaitanya was mentioning the upcoming features was the telemetry API, because that again was one of the things that drove us towards CDAP. The capabilities that it offered in terms of being observable and transparent in that manner for both from an operational perspective and as well as from a usage perspective. And again, extensibility was a big factor because we needed to write our own plugins and integrate with our other services within FIS. And obviously, at the kind of scale we are operating, it needed to be scalable as well. So, having decided on CDAP, it's not like a small company or a system where you just decide, okay, that's going to be our journey, and then we start there. In a big enterprise, it has to go through a small journey, and it has to be in a more measured manner. So we started off with the proof of concept. Again, we started using the open source solution, the sandbox, that is again available to run in a Docker container. And that was initially shown to a small set of stakeholders. They were happy with it. And then we moved along to building a straw man, just manually provisioning a Kubernetes cluster and running a sample pipeline with that. That was the key factor in convincing the wider stakeholders within FIS to say, okay, this is the solution that we want to invest in. And the next step is actually where we are now in this journey. And we are in the process of building out a full-fledged ecosystem, if you will, with the proper SDLC lifecycle, so dev, UAT, and prod for the data analyst to start using the pipelines. The next step would be multiple instances. As Osman mentioned earlier, we have 3 big business units within FIS. So merchant solutions is the one we are targeting first, but then we also have the banking and the capital markets business units. So maybe we'll in the future we can roll out independent ecosystems to those business units. Yeah, thanks. So when we say ecosystem, this is what we, from our FIS perspective, consider the ecosystem. The green parts would be familiar to the audience here. So that's the core CDAP component that come out of the box with the open source solution, including the CDAP hub and the plugin. The ancillary systems are in blue. So for meeting our regulatory requirements, we have a couple of services, the encryption and decryption service. And then in addition to that, we have the shared services, what we call from AWS. So we use some of the services like SNS, SQS, Lambda for orchestrating the event-driven mechanism for the pipelines. And obviously we have the S3 for the source, because we're starting off with the text files. And then also the Snowflake is our target data warehouse. If you can move to the next one, please. So at the moment, this is what a typical data pipeline looks like. And again, this is probably very familiar to the audience here. The difference is we have to do a set of pre-processing, if you will, and that's what the encrypt step at the top looks like. And the takeaway from this picture is at no point in this pipeline from the source to the target is data in unsecured position, because throughout the journey, it's either encrypted at a record level or inside the CDAP itself, where we have field level encryption. So the data is always secure going through the pipeline. And move to the next one, please. So one of the things we mentioned earlier was the different types of users we have within the company and the huge number of teams. So we want to make it simple for them to be onboarded and start using the ecosystem. So we kind of provided a contract, and this is what the teams that want to use the ecosystem and create pipelines will have to provide. So what you see is should be familiar. So details about the data set itself, and to meet the regulatory requirements, what are the classifications that each schema has, and then how they want it to present in the target system. And in addition to that, some metadata information around data quality, frequency of data arrival, etc., the cadence, etc. So given those input, then what we provide as part of the solution, the package solution, is we'll create the pipeline automatically using a REST API, again, that comes with CDAP. And in addition to that, we'll create the schema in the target data warehouse and other some of the ancillary features. Go to the next one, please, Lenny. So that's how we kind of package the whole ecosystem as an offering. And in terms of deployment, Eleni will talk more about how we went about doing that at FIS.
Yeah, thanks, Amin. So I would like to talk a little bit about how we deploy and manage our CDAP environments. So first of all, as you might have already understood, our cloud provider is AWS. So our CDAP platform runs on EKS, which is the managed Kubernetes service from Amazon. To deploy that, we have created automation with some custom Helm charts to manage the Kubernetes resource, of course. And then we are also using Terraform to manage any AWS resources we need. Of course, all of our environments run within isolated corporate networks. So we had to do a number of customization to the platform to adhere to those requirements. One that it was very important for us was the ability to build a custom hub. As you already know, the hub is another open source project which we were very lucky to find and make it our own. We took this project and deployed it as a service within our environments. So this way we offer an internal pipeline and plugin marketplace to our platform. Other than that, we explored the, we've created a lot of other customization with plugins and services to integrate with other AWS services. For example, the team has worked on a plugin that integrates with SNS for notifications in the pipeline, and we're also experimenting with a service that integrates with SSM, which allows you to source parameters from this AWS service back to your pipelines. And another one that was quite useful for us with regards to observability is a Prometheus exporter that we also deployed on the platform to export the CDAP metrics into our Grafana dashboard and the observability platform we've got. So as you can see, again, on these slides, we have some the other custom services that someone already talked about, that do the orchestration, decryption, and encryption. These are all, again, defined in Terraform and managed there. And we also use EMR as our core compute engine for CDAP. All of these ecosystem, including plugins and all the things we manage here, have their own CI/CD workflows. We're using Jenkins for that, the usual aspect, I guess. We're using Artifactory and GitHub. Also, of course, for the CDAP, to deploy the CDAP platform, we're using, again, the open source project, the Kubernetes operator, which really helped us get going. So even though it seems that we haven't been on the journey for way too long, but there are some lessons we've already learned and we'd like to share with you today. First of all, I think it is very important for us to invest time understanding the operator project. This, even like from small things, so like understanding where every configuration is, how it affects the CDAP services. It really helped us after a couple of iterations of testing, proof of concept, to make this really build confidence on how we build and deploy our environments. And then by following from that onwards, we were able to identify the right sizes, for example, that our pods needed, and we saw that this had this affected the way our data pipelines performed. As I mentioned earlier, the hub was another key component for us, as we didn't have any external access to our networks. Finding this open source project, customizing it, and deploying it into the platform was key to support all of the data pipelines we have in our use cases. And then last but not least, I'm hoping this is not news to anyone here, but the deployment automation that we built from early on, especially using the custom Helm charts, for example, around the operator, was really important for us. It did help us to, as we were running through different iterations and experiments, to be in a position to really tear down everything, bring everything back up in minutes. So next, now what's a couple of things that we're looking to do in the future, especially for the platform itself. First of all, we really want to explore how CDAP integrates with other services that we probably will need to for our use cases. The next on our list is RDS, looking to move to that for the Postgres database as part of the platform. And then, of course, we would like to carry on extending what we already found available with further custom plugins and potentially services that can go back to the operator project. We're definitely looking forward to contribute our findings back to the community and see whether the community can also benefit from our findings and our experience of running CDAP on AWS. And then finally, as Sami mentioned earlier, we do look forward to engage with even more like business units within FIS and see how CDAP can help them as well. That's all for us today.